Minehut can become very laggy at times, and if there is anybody in the whole Minehut network who knows anything about Minehut lag or has problems with it, that's definitely me. Hello, welcome to a video, and today I'm going to be talking about Minehut's lag problem and how I've dealt with it. So I've had a lot of Minehut lag on the server, and the reason for that is because multiple times a week I open up an event server that hits 150 players concurrently. So I have to deal with two types of Minehut lag: TPS lag and connection lag, and here is how I deal with the both of them. First up is Minecraft TPS. Now, Minecraft runs in 20 ticks per second. So if your server, when you do the command /TPS, is anything above 18, you're doing a pretty good job, if I'm being honest. And your problem isn't really with TPS. Now, there are ways to get that higher, and that's what I'm going to explain later. But the big thing is if your TPS is running below kind of something around the lines of 15, you've got a problem to deal with, and go deal with it. Now, when I first started doing master events, these guys would come on my server every single stream, V-clip out of the event server, and start loading hundreds on hundreds of chunks a minute by flying around the world. And what that did is it took our TPS from 20 down to like 5, 4, 3, crash. The server would just crash after like 3 TPS every single stream, and it took me a while to honestly find out what the problem was. I had to message a guy, and he was like, guys are loading your chunks, and I was like, oh, that would make sense. That would make sense. So in the end, we set up a border. So if you guys have a server, I would suggest setting up a border. That way they can't go out the border and load hundreds of chunks. Anyways, that was my problem. And I know another server called MobGens. I have a friend who was on there loading hundreds of plots a minute. He took the TPS from about 15, which is where the server usually was, down to like 7 and 6. And the server was just performing absolutely horribly, and well, they need to fix that. So something to stop people from flying really quickly, or just something else like setting up a world border will deal with the problem in that zone. Now, a couple of other things you could do, which is what I've done, is check your server distance. When a player logs into the server, they have a server distance that they can see from. As you can see, Minehut's very high. No matter what I set my render distance to, there is a server distance, and I set mine on master events to about 4 render distance. The reason for that is if there's 100 players rendering 10 chunks, 15 chunks, the server's gonna die. But if 100 people are only loading about 3, 4 chunks, the server's gonna actually probably run a lot better. And that is why all my events with 150 players run at 20 TPS smoothly. But the thing is, that's not the problem with my events anymore. The problem with my events now are connections. Now, the best way to fix TPS is obviously with render distance, borders, making sure people can't fly around really quickly, and there are probably a few other things you can do. If you're running script on your server, you've got to customize that right away. Go check your code, see if you've got any while loops or every something seconds. You've got to fix all your stuff, because that is pretty bad actually. And the less every or while loops in a script, the better it can be for your server. Plugins. Limit yourself on plugins. On my event server, I only have about 6 plugins: script, world edit, and maybe 2 or 3 script add-ons. No plugins at all. Find out what plugins you don't use and get rid of them. If you're not using worlds, delete those worlds, get rid of them. I only have one world, and it's a void world. Unload the end, unload the nether, unload everything you're not using. Now, if you're just using a survival world, then you're probably gonna have to go rely on chunks distance, on the server view distance. But if you're doing something like me, where you're doing an event or something that only requires 1 or 2 worlds, go around and delete every world that you're not using. Anyways, that's about it for the problems with TPS. Those are kind of the ways that I fixed TPS on my Minehut server. But the big problem with Minehut is actually not TPS. The big problem with Minehut is connection problems, and I'm going to explain that right now and what that means and what I have done to kind of help myself deal with that. The last problem with Minehut is ping connection problems. So whenever I do an event on my Minehut server, everybody's ping, if the server has about 100 players, is about 200, 300, 400. It's not terrible, but the real problem starts when you go past 120, 130 players on my Minehut server. Everybody's ping goes up to like 1,000, 10,000, 15,000, 6,000, 7,000, and that is absolutely terrible for the Minehut server. Now, Minehut server doesn't really run that well when it comes to the connection. The TPS on Minehut is actually pretty good, if I'm being honest, unless you're doing something that is purposely trying to kill the TPS. But usually, it runs quite well, the TPS. But the connection thing is where the problems start, because even if you have a server that's running really well on TPS and you might not have as many people on it, it can still be doing bad because of the connections. Now, that might all be confusing, but I'm going to give you a really good example right now. I have an event server, Master EVNT. 500 players can fit in the server in total because it's an MH Unlimited server. Now, there's this other server called MH Sunday. They have an MH Unlimited plan as well, and they do the exact same events as me for money and everything. Now, granted, they have a couple of things different on their server which could potentially cause extra lag, but the big thing to note is I can fit 120 players without it having problems. I could start an event with 150 players and it'll have problems. They can't hit 100 players without going into full-on terrible crash mode. They did an event the other day and they had about 100 people max. I don't even think they could hit 100. I think it was about 80, and the server kept crashing and crashing. Everybody kept getting kicked back to the lobby, and they ended up having to start with 60. Now, they have the same plan as me. I can handle 150. They can only handle 80. What? That is really weird. And the thing is, I've been doing these events for a while, so I kind of have a feeling I know a little bit more when it comes to this. So the big thing, obviously, is how many packets are getting sent to the server. What activities are you doing on your server to make the connection go badly? If I do an event where you have to swim in the water, it's going to be sending moving packets, swimming packets, and the server's going to die. I did an event before where I tried to do a swimming event. I had to stop the event because it was too bad. If I do an event where you just have to run, I'm sending running packets and the server is going to perform. If I do an event where you have to stand still, which I'm not going to do because it's boring, the server's going to be quite good. Everyone's ping is going to be about 800, 500 with around 130, 140 players. Whilst if I did an event where they were swimming with even 100 players, the server TPS is going to go down the drain. So think about what you have on your server. Do you have things that send a lot of packets like boats? Running is, it's a normal thing, but just think about packets. That's the thing you should think about. Maybe Google it. I'm not the best when it comes to packets, but Google what sends a lot of packets to servers and try to fix that. The big thing that works really well for me, and I feel like the reason I can handle 150 players while MH Sunday cannot, is this really simple thing, and it's just restarting your server. Restart your server all the time. I can't stress how important it is to restart a server after around 24 hours. Before I do an event, I always restart my event server. Always restart it, do an event, and then it stays up for the week. And then when I need to do another event, I'll just restart the server again. You need to restart a server. I don't really know the explanation of why I need to do that. I just know that restarting a server is a very, 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 very good thing to do. And it works really, really well for me. And I feel like that's kind of one of the main reasons why I can handle more players than them. Plus, they have a bunch of things that I don't. Extra plugins, extra thing that sends packets, which is also another thing why I reckon I do better. If you're still having problems after that, just leave a comment down below. I'll respond straight away or as soon as I can. And I'll see if I can help you out with that. Anyways, that's going to be it for today. Please like and sub. Also, watch one of the videos on the end screen annotation. Bye.